Hey Exiles, this is a Wave 30 Simulacrum with my cast while stunned Chieftain, primarily using Firestorm and also Blazing Salvo for a little bit of supplemental damage. I'm going to start this out with a setup including Body Swap, just to kind of teleport me around the arena without having to move. I don't like to touch buttons if I don't have to, so this is going to help with some of that. I'm going to have to reposition a little bit if I get stopped. And here we go. I might make some changes as it goes, and I'll kind of explain those while it's happening. But for the most part, I'm just going to go hands up, let the build do its thing. Um, the main gimmick here is whenever I get stunned, I cast stuff. And I'm tanky enough to just be able to sit here, take lots of damage. So we got our first boss spawn here. And we got both of the bosses spawned here, so this is interesting. Let's see how it goes. Um, I'm relatively immortal. I thought I was immortal, but occasionally Kosis can grow a spine and kill me, depending on the map mods. So, or the round mods, I should say. So these mods here, he got very close right there. He got very, very close. I was thinking this might be a difficult one. The physical damage reduction is good for him. The extra physical is chaos is good for him because chaos is my lowest resist. And the penetration of chaos stacking with the extra phys is chaos is probably why he got me down that low. So this is the last round, and I didn't kill him with the Hinakura pops, which is often the case, that I'll just kill him without even realizing it. But I've got two monsters left, so not going to take him down with that. And although, let's see if he kills me. Although you can AFK kill him completely, it just takes a while. So it's like if you're gonna, set it up and do some chores or whatever, uh, this will eventually kill him. You can see he's gonna take some damage now. He's gonna take the most of his damage when he gets into his little. There we go, right here, the rapid attack salvo. But yeah, that's it right there, and he's taking a good bit of damage. But to speed this up, you can do a couple things. You can take elemental weakness and put that in for body swap. You can also, the most impactful thing is in your firestorm setup here. We're going to take out cast when stunned. We're going to take out just that, and we're going to add in spell echo, and then we're just going to hold down a button for a minute. I know buttons suck, but you can see his health is dropping pretty quick. And there we go. Finished him off. Not too bad. Certainly other builds can do it faster, but the amount of attention you have to pay is next to zero. And if you want to speed it up, you can. If you don't, if you want to do it completely AFK, you can. These little bastards, cowards, are also annoying. So sometimes you'll get left with one of those summoners that'll just like jerk off in a corner, and you've got to unfortunately touch buttons to kill him proactively, not just waiting for him to attack you, because he won't. Alright, so I'm going to go over more of this in the next segment, but I wanted to do just an example wave there. I think that's a pretty representative wave, and then we can talk about the build specifics more in a minute. Okay, so let's go over the specifics of this build, how it's working, and why I've chosen to make some of the decisions that I've made here. So the basic gimmick is using cast when stunned support. Now normally stunning is based on your life, and we've got a lot of life, but with the mastery over here, the energy shield mastery, that swaps our stun threshold from being based on life to being based on energy shield. So we've got a very small amount of energy shield down here, meaning that almost every single hit that hits us is going to trigger our cast when stunned. Well, 89% of those will trigger the cast on stunned with a level 20/20. Um, and that is going to make us cast a Firestorm and a Blazing Salvo. You know, these skills can be swapped around. This is the way that I've set it up. It's also going to be triggering our boot setup, which is, you know, up to you how you want to play it. I like to use Anonymous Flammability and Elemental Weakness for DPS. If you want to go Coward mode, you can swap Enfeeble in for Elemental Weakness, and if you want to go more AFK, you can put Body Swap in. Body Swap's great for smaller arenas in Simulacrum, especially in the earlier stages when you don't need as much DPS, you don't really need any tank. It's kind of nice, it's fun. And let's see, other link setups we've got. Righteous Fire for some more DPS on all our skills. Got Arctic Armor, providing a ton of physical and fire damage reduction while we're stunned. It also gives us a source of chill, which is a little bit of extra damage for our sadist nodes. We've got Arrogance to power Vitality here, giving us more regen. And then we've got our auras up on the helmet here. Herald of Ash, tons of damage, and light and support to help us use them all. Purity of Fire, obviously very important for the Chieftain, giving us tons and tons of resistance, tons and tons of max res. And then we've got Anger for some more damage. Alright, let's go into the defenses of the build. We've got 90% on all of our elemental resistances. We've got the 70. It says 50% right here in the chaos reduction, chaos resistance. When I get maximum endurance charges, which is almost always, that's going to go up to max chaos res. We've got very high physical damage mitigation, coming from 50% of it being transferred into fire damage, which is then reduced by 90%, which is also getting 20% less from our Mage Blood pumped flask here, and then a further 6% reduction if we've been hit recently, which we almost always have. So massively reduced elemental damage taken, especially fire. Actually, all of them. So 50% of our physical damage is getting converted into fire, which is getting heavily reduced. We're getting 10% off of adrenaline from these boots, physical reduction, getting 21% physical reduction from Arctic Armor, and then we're getting 35% physical reduction from 7 endurance charges, which are enhanced by yoinking this notable on the Juggernaut tree. All right. So very good defenses there. It comes out to 61% reduced physical damage taken, and 50% of it taken as fire. What more? We've got some block. We've got 55% attack damage block, and we've got 18% spell damage block. And then we have a pretty extensive list of things we're immune to. We're immune to cold ailments from our boots and Arctic Armor and other places as well. Not that we need to be redundant in them, but they are. We've got immune to Ignite from the Chieftain Ascendancy. We've got immune to Shock from this gem up here, giving us 30%, and then filling out the rest with these tattoos here. We've got immunity to Bleed from a modifier on our flask here. We've got Hexproof from having a magic ring in our right ring slot while wearing Viridi's Veil. And we are also crit proof from the 50% reduced crit damage implicit on our chest, coupled with 10% from this tattoo, 10% from this tattoo, and finishing it off with this 30% mastery from the armor wheel here. Alright. We've got a decent amount of recovery as well. We've got 2% life recovery on block from this mod right here, this mastery. We've got 1.3k life regen, and that goes up to 1.7 k life regen if we're standing on consecrated ground. That gets chopped down quite a bit because we are using Righteous Fire and we are using Annihilation's Approach, both of which deal a considerable amount of damage over time to us as fire. But because it's so heavily reduced by all our defenses and fire reduction, it only ends up chopping us down to about from 1.3k without consecrated ground goes down to about 560 life regen. So that's with everything running, with all the degens running, we're still getting 562 life a second, or 960 if we're standing on consecrated ground, which we often are from Bottled Faith. Also, we have 943 life leech when we hit something. We're pretty much always hitting something, so it's quite a bit of life leech, especially when you couple it with the net life regen and the recovery. We've got plenty of recovery there. Okay, so the mana is important in this build, and it's kind of intricate. Not too bad, but it's a couple little things you want to take note of. I've only got 46 mana here, and that's actually pretty comfortable headroom. We are using inspiration on all of our setups here. And the way I've got the inspirations leveled and situated is kind of important. So these boots have an enchantment that reduces the mana cost of skills if we've been hit recently. We've almost always been hit recently. Right now I haven't, so flammability is going to say 12 mana. When I get hit, flammability is going to go down to 1 mana, as well as any other thing in this chain here, or any other. If I'm playing with either of these, they'll also be 1 mana. I think Enfeebles is actually 0, and we want that. We want it to cost at least 1 mana, because otherwise inspiration support isn't going to generate inspiration charges, and we want those inspiration charges to further empower our DPS setups. Okay, so I've got a divergent inspiration support to further reduce. So when I get hit, both of these are going to cost 0, right? I've got divergent on this one because sometimes in Simulacrum you'll get hit with a debuff that will reduce the effects of your flasks. Okay, so this flask right here is giving us a very large chunk of our reduced mana cost. So in that situation, when you get that debuff stacked up on you, your mana is going to refill a little bit, and we want it to cast the more preferred DPS spell, which is Firestorm, before it casts Blazing Salvo. Otherwise, it'll only cast the cheaper one and never the better one, right? So we want to use the better one here, and that's why the Divergent Inspiration is there instead of here. Yeah, kind of minor, but nice to know. All right, so that covers the mana. Let's look at our DPS. All right, so the DPS is like a little tricky to calculate. If we just look at the absolute perfect dream world scenario DPS, and this is set up with Guardian Pinnacle Boss, it's going to be 44 mil. Now that's a lie, and I'll tell you why. It's actually higher than that if we want to get totally technical here. This cast wall damage or cast wall stunned is has a trigger rate of 7.58 per second, and that's max. If you want to make that number artificially higher, because you're a POB warrior, you put in a jewel that gives you at least 2% cooldown recovery rate. And you can see that if we add this to the build here and then just throw it in this jewel socket up here, it's going to bring this trigger rate to 10.10. So that means if something is hitting us 10 times a second, because remember the skills only trigger when we're getting hit. If something is stunning us 10 times a second, we're going to have 57 million DPS between our Firestorm and our Blazing Salvo setup. That's also, again, a lie because Blazing Salvo is set to all projectiles. So in a perfect world where I'm standing right on top of the boss and everything is hitting everything, that's our DPS. That doesn't really happen, so a more reasonable setup to actually trigger our DPS, or see what our DPS is going to look like, is if I just go ahead and deactivate Blazing Salvo, and let's just look at Firestorm. Now if we take cast one stunned, and now a lot of times when you're fighting like a single target, you can take cast one stunned off, you can take constant, and instead of cast one stunned, you're going to put in Awaken Spell Echo, and that's going to give us a better picture of how much DPS we're going to have against a boss, and that's 5.5 million. Not terrible, not unbelievable. It does also go up because we're going to change our flask setup and take out the topaz flask for, where the hell is it? I don't know where it is, but it's this one right here. Take that guy, put that in, and having that why am I not seeing? Oh, I didn't add to the build yet. Derp. Alright, so there we go. Silver Flask is going to bump up because we get the extra cast speed, and that's going to bump up our DPS to about 7 million. And that's with these reasonable things applied. So decent DPS and a lot of tank, right? A lot of tank. Okay. Let's go over the gear really quick. Annihilating Light, dealing triple damage with elemental skills, huge. I wouldn't really play the build without it. It does have a big reduction of our elemental resistances, which we overcome by being Chieftain, and having the Chieftain Ascendancy, giving us, spreading our excess cold resistance to the max resistances of the other elements, and as well as the regular resists here with this node. So that comes out to well over enough, especially when combined with the Mage Blood and the cheat mode activated here to give us plenty of resists. Okay, Viridi's Veil is giving us lots of reservation, ability to reserve lots and lots of mana with the +2 to our Enlighten here. Allows us to get Herald of Ash, Anger, Puritive Fire, all reserved comfortably enough, and I'm not even using anything on the tree to support further reduction of mana costs or reservations or anything like that. I'm not needing to, get charisma, anoint charisma or anything like that. That's also in large part due to the Anger efficiency mod on this amulet. But you'll notice I don't have any applicable reservation mods enchanted on the Veil, so that could be made up for because this is kind of a niche item. It's going to be hard to find. So that's another place you could make up for it. Alright, this amulet is just basically throwing on some damage, a little bit of life, a little bit of damage, a little bit of resist, or some resist, and some reservation. It's great. This ring is lots of life, lots of chaos res, and we have to be using, in order to get the other benefits of Viridi's Veil, you've got to be wearing a magic ring. That's going to make all damage against us unlucky, and if that magic ring is in our right slot, we are going to be hexproof, right? So very nice there. The Annihilation's Approach boots are a bit of a double-edged sword. I think they're BIS. Like, the boot situation is not fantastic for this build, and nobody really likes endurance charge on boots. Like, you have to craft something really wonky, I think, to get something better than these boots. You could do it with, it would be such a nightmare, but I think maybe best in slot would be like extra endurance charges, immune to poison, and then just like a lot of regen or something. But the damage you get off of these boots is huge from having adrenaline all the time, and you also get physical damage reduction. You get a lot of move speed. You get cast speed to get that damage. It's really good. This corruption is pretty nice. It's a little expensive, but obviously, we're wearing a Mage Blood, so expense is not really something I'm going to worry about too much in this build. It's a little bit of a novelty build. It's a little bit of a vanity project, right? Like these boots a lot, and it's hard to find a way to replace them. Mage Blood, it's cheat mode, whatever. It's fun to play with. You can use different mods on these. I think these mods are the best way to go. You need the reduced mana cost. I couldn't find a great way to get immune to bleed and corrupted blood without like, because the jewels I'm using for the build are pretty specific, and Warrior's Tale, you could get one with a corrupted blood immunity, but I don't know. I threw it on the flask. Um, we are not exactly an ignite build, but I wanted to get ignite on there because we are using Hinakoras. They do have huge AoE. We're scaling AoE. Bumping up our chance to ignite is important there to get some use out of that. It's also important because we're using uh, sadist nodes here, and they want you to have chilled, ignited, or shocked enemies recently. We get the chilled from the Arctic armor. We get the ignite through the use of our gloves here. The enchantment on a glove has never mattered more, as far as I know, in any build that I've played, than it does right here. You want it to be this one. It's got to be in the Commandment of Flames. The other fire-based glove enchant is on death, or excuse me, when you kill something. And I really want it to be when you hit something. Um, so this makes a little fire nova, and that fire nova will cause ignites around you, which is going to be important for our sadist nodes. It also, yeah, for the sadist nodes, and that's it. So nice little bonus from that. Let's see, I think that's about it for the gear. The tree we can take a look at really quick here while it's open. This ascendancy tree is scuffed, right? Maybe this is a clue that I shouldn't be playing this on Chieftain and should prefer something else, but I don't know. I think Chieftain is still the way to go. But clearly, Remiko Sun's Light does nothing. Forest Strength, none of these notables do anything. This does a little bit of something, so I took it. Don't at me. Okay, this is like very standard, Marauder stuff, right? If you've seen 3 Marauder POBs, they've probably all had something similar to this, right? This is going to be where we're getting the lion's share of our maximum fire resist increasement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there. Obviously these are normally 1, but they're being doubled by the Warrior's Tale. And then I'm just picking up some more life in here. We're going to go over and we're going to get the Red Nightmare in this slot. And then we're going to buff up these nodes here to give us, we're going to tap them to give us fire, resistance, which gets turned into added block chance from the Red Nightmare. Really nice, lots of defense here. Pretty standard stuff. We're going to go over, we're going to use Elegant Hubris with Supreme Ostentation, so we can just go ahead and ignore all the requirements for stats from our gems, from our equipment. Super nice, opens tons of space in the build to do stuff, and tons of space on the tree to tap everything, right? 10% extra life is nice, and the very important gain 1 endurance charge every second you've been hit, kind of crucial for the build. Don't think I would play it without this, or it would look very different. Alright, I've got a cluster over here. Smoking Remains, a little bit extra damage. Sadist, a little bit extra damage. I haven't found out a really satisfying way to trigger shock in this build, so that might be something worth looking into. But if you can find a good way to get shock in this build reliably, then you're going to get 50% increased damage, easy peasy. We are yoinking again the Unrelenting node here, just lots of extra tank. There's other choices you can use from Marauder that are quite good. Unyielding is another one I use sometimes for extra damage and extra AoE, but I think overall this is the best. So as we travel up here, we're getting some just more life, standard stuff. We got this block chance and recovery mastery. We're going to get some extra damage over here. This Watcher's Eye is really, 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 really good, and I would prioritize the bottom 2 mods on it if I didn't have this one. Alright, we go up this way. We've got another cluster set up here. Again, we've got Sadist, and then Doriani's Lesson is great for the leech. I haven't gotten 100 yet, and I can't find a place to pull a node, so I haven't put Cremator on yet, but probably will next. Wrapped in Flame, extra fire damage, and we are burning, so we have a 5% chance to cover our enemies with Ash on hit. We're burning from, again, Righteous Fire. 5% doesn't seem like a lot, but this build is doing many, many instances of hits every second, so it's pretty reliable. Even if you're just against one enemy, you have a very high chance of covering them in Ash, which is 20% increased fire damage taken, big damage buff. Make sure that's working for you. We've got, I forgot to mention in the recovery section there, we do actually have quite a bit of damage recoup. So we get 59% from my cheapo Blood Notch, and then we also get a bunch more down here, and then we also get some on this jewel, and we also get some on this jewel. Alright, so I think that's around 100, maybe even over 100 when I've got both of these jewels in. An option is to take this jewel out and put in Immutable Force. I'll do this while mapping, so I don't really notice the stuns at all, because you recover from them so quickly you don't even really notice them. But this is my bossing Simu setup. Alright, we come down here, we get another maximum fire res, another endurance charge. The endurance charges add a lot to this build, so it's nice to stack them wherever we can. Elemental Overload, we're not a crit build, but we do crit often enough, so Elemental Overload is almost always active. Alright, coming over here, grabbing more fire, grabbing more health, some more recoup. We've got these reduced shock effect nodes to round out our shock resistance, and we are taking this nifty little loyalty tattoo. When a unique enemy, when we block a unique enemy's incoming damage, it's going to summon this little nerd for like 20 seconds, and he's going to give us, I think it's like 1 to 20% life recoup for when you block an enemy's damage, something like that. It's pretty good. It's kind of whatever, you can replace that if you want, but one node adds a cool effect, so why not? Then we're finally going to come down and through here. We get some extra block chance nodes, and get a very powerful mastery here, 25% more spell damage if we've been stunned while casting recently. Again, we're always stunned recently, so that's the tree. And I wanted to go over what I would do for a map. Okay, so let's take a look at the map situation, what we do to go from running simulations, simulacrums, from running bosses to running some maps here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take out these flasks here. We're going to leave in the chaos one with the reduced mana cost, very important. We're also going to leave on the immunity to bleeding on the ruby flask. The fire reduction, the fire resistance is very important on this build, so we're going to leave those two in. We're going to add in a quicksilver with additional elemental resistances to cover the what we lost from these two coming out, and we're going to throw in a silver flask with life regen per second. Alright. We are also going to take out these boots. We're going to add in another pair of boots. Unfortunately, these don't have the endurance charge implicit. That's not that important. What is important is that they do also have the mana cost enchantment. We can, I swap these out because, resocketing, recoloring is a pain in the ass, especially when you're dealing with corrupted items. Val orbs don't grow on trees, and I'd like to just quickly swap this over, right? The links we're going to use now, we're not going to be cursing because it's just not really that important. If you wanted to, you could absolutely run curses. You can run wherever you want in the setup. I just like to use phase run for the phasing and the extra movement speed. Again, whatever you do run, you want to have an inspiration support. This inspiration can be 20. The other one needed to be 18. Because if it was 20, then it would reduce the cost of the curses down to 0. And again, we want the skills in this setup to be costing at least 1, so it gives us endurance or inspiration charges. All right, but with 20/20 inspiration, my Frostblink is going to cost 7, and my phase run is going to cost 4. Right, so easy there. And then increased duration for the phase run. You can, you can throw in punishment on that, maybe, whatever you want. Great. So the other swap we're going to make, we're taking out Blazing Salvo, and this is going to become a setup that's like our sort of pseudo auto bomber setup. I'm going to throw in a Val Firestorm. It can be a regular Firestorm, a 21, whatever. It's up to you. Um, Cast when stun stays in. Concentrated effect comes out. Spell Cascade or a Woke Spell Cascade goes in. And over on our other setup, this is going to be like our DPS single target setup. Taking out Cast when stunned, putting in Spell Echo, right? So we got Firestorm, Cast when stunned, or sorry, Spell Echo, Concentrated Effect, and the Woke Elemental Focus, right? And that is almost it. The last thing we want to do to go into a map, do some mapping at more efficient levels. Take out this jewel here. You want to make sure you leave in your one with shock effect reduction. And we're going to throw in a mutable force. This isn't even necessary, but it makes it feel a lot better, right? Because you don't want to feel the effect of the stuns as you're running around the map. It doesn't really matter so much if you're trying to like AFK an invitation or something like that, but when we're mapping, we want the movement speed, we want to be unencumbered and uninhibited. So let's go ahead and run. I've got a Minotaur map queued up here. Throw a temple on there. One other thing I forgot to mention, the Pantheon setup. So I like Solo Lunaris in almost all situations. You can make an argument for this if you are just fighting like single bosses, but you know, the reduction of elemental damage taken if you've been hit recently is quite good, and the other ones are quite good as well. The one thing we're not immune to is poison. So I've been taking this node to kind of make most of the poison. It's good enough so that I'm not noticing poison most of the time, right? All right, let's give this a whirl. I'm gonna go in this map. I'm gonna flick on Righteous Fire. I'm gonna flick on Approaching Flames. See, I'm quite zoomy, and we're just gonna run around. So when I come up to a monster pack, I can stop for a moment, and that's just gonna let them hit me. Proc stuff, I run around, and it's pretty easy. If I want to be AFK for the memes, I can totally be AFK. I can have 2 AFK setups, but I find one is good enough. And then I come over here, and if I want to throw some extra damage down, I just click my single target Firestorm, and there we go, easy. Alright. So I can go through. If I want to throw a Firestorm down, I can. Don't want to, I don't have to. The thing about using Firestorm as an activated is it's going to kill your phase run. Alright, so I like to just run around, let him hit me, go. Let him hit me and go. We're just going to ignore that. I'm just going to go right to the boss. You can see this is pretty decent mapping. If I want to make it a little faster, I can click. You know, this build is set up to be AFK-ish, but the more attention you want to pay, of course, the better it's going to get, right? And while it's not exactly set up to be the fastest mapper of all time, it's certainly snappy enough. It does use a Mage Blood after all, and it's pretty fun. The only mod that you don't want to get is the health regeneration reduction per endurance charge. That will hurt pretty bad. So avoid that mod. The rest are whatever. You know, sometimes you can get like a particularly nasty set of things that overlap, like massive physical reduction, overwhelming physical reduction, like in multiple layers, or you know, but pretty rare. For the most part, you can ignore them. And then we're just going to go in, and we're just going to DPS the boss down here. I mean, brain off, just clicking one button, and there we go. Easy peasy. All right. Great. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.